All right. All right, so we're up to Rosh Chodesh Sameach. Welcome everyone to a Rosh Chodesh service for Shvat. Okay, the month of Shvat, and it's starting, and so we do want to have a little service because we are told in Scripture. Actually, it doesn't tell us to have a service. It doesn't tell us anything except that we are to celebrate. And for those of you that were here for the meal, we celebrated. And it was good food. And if you weren't here, oh, did you miss a party? Nah, it was just good food. We had a good fellowship. It was a good time. All right, so for those of you on live stream, we got Manny over there on the desk, keeping track of things. Is Kurt on there too? Haven't heard from him yet. Okay, but please be respectful of those that are helping to monitor the chat there. Okay, so the way this works, for those of you that are new with us, so the new month, the new moon is beginning. And so we're going to have a short service. And when I say short, the service itself is actually only 10 or 15 minutes. It's not very long. And then I'll maybe have a few words to say. It's possible. Why are you all laughing? Okay, so, and then we'll shut the whole live stream down and we'll have some more fun. So anyway, so the way this works for you on live stream, so the whole thing is slide or screen driven. So we'll be all looking at the screen and we'll be reading off the screen and we'll be participating in that manner. I know some of the slides still say things like leader and other things as to who needs to be reading what. For pretty much almost everything except sort of the pronouncement of the new month, pretty much everybody can read together and that'll be just fine. Okay? All right, are we good, Marty? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the sounding of the silver trumpets, if you'll all rise. Well, silver trumpet. Here we go. Amen, amen. All right, Psalm 51:15. Yahweh sifatai tivtach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Yahweh, open my lips that my mouth declare your praise. May the expressions of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, Yahweh, my rock and my redeemer. Also in the day of your gladness and in your appointed times and in the beginning of your months, you shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your Elohim. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. And that's not to say that anything we ate was a burnt offering. Okay, just. All right, Kedushat Levanah, sanctification of the new moon. O Yahweh, our Elohim, and Elohim of our fathers, make this coming month one of good and blessing. Grant us long life, a life of peace, of good, of blessing, of sustenance, of vigor. A life marked by a reverence for you and a dread of sin. A life free from shame and reproach. A life of prosperity and honor. A life in which love of the living Torah and the fear of Elohim animates us. A life in which our heartfelt desires are fulfilled for good. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Amen. He who performed miracles for our fathers and liberated them from slavery to freedom, may he quickly liberate us and gather our exiles from the four corners of the earth, and let us say, Amen. The new moon of the month of Shvat is today. May it prove to be good and fruitful for all 12 tribes of Yisrael. May the set apart one, blessed be he, grant this Rosh Chodesh to us and to all his people for life and peace, for gladness and joy, for deliverance and consolation. And let us say, Amen. Together, blessed, praised, glorified, honored, and exalted be the name of the King of Kings, the set-apart one. Blessed be he, who is the first and the last, and beside him there is no Elohim. Extol him in the heavens. Yahweh is his name. Rejoice before his face. His name is honored beyond all blessing and praise. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever. Let the name of Yahweh be blessed forever and ever. From Isaiah 66, verses 22 to 23, for as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from Rosh Chodesh to Rosh Chodesh, and from Shabbat to Shabbat, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahweh. Amen. Amen. Rosh Chodesh Sameach. All right, you may be seated. Okay. So what shall we talk about today? No. Okay, I do want to say something that I say almost every month, and I should say it every month, is that let's always take opportunity. Rosh Chodeshes do that for us. Shabbats do that for us. Feasts do that for us. In other words, an opportunity as we have these markings of time to turn the page and say, okay, it's like a new beginning. Because that's the metaphor of the Rosh Chodesh. It's a renewing of the month. So why don't we renew ourselves and recognize that there's an opportunity to start afresh. Okay? And so we want to do that, especially at every opportunity that we can. Because sometimes people think about, well, Passover says to examine yourself. Okay, well, we should. We think about that, about rededicating ourselves around Hanukkah time or between, before trumpets and atonement and those kinds. But every opportunity we have to just say, you know what? I can start right now. The very cliche saying of today is the first day of the rest of your life. Well, that's true. It's a cliche, but it's true. And so we should be thinking about, okay, it's a new month. So what am I going to do during this new month to let go of everything that was before and to get excited about what's in front? And I think that's really exciting. Amen? Okay, so since it's a new month, I think most of you probably need to go and make an appointment with a spiritual dermatologist. Okay? Some of you laughed. Because apparently you were having skin problems, thin skin problems. And it's so bad that some of us are having thin skin, not just for ourselves, but for other people. Like something happens to somebody else, and you have your thin skin get affected by it. Here's the worst part. Sometimes you're being thin-skinned or offended by something that you misinterpreted and it didn't even happen like you thought. Okay? Now, I don't know if the person is online today, and we do need to deal with something. And look, you did it in public, you get it back in public. But it's a good learning lesson. So this isn't my attacking of a person. But somebody decided on Shabbat to make a posting because they were thin-skinned offended for a perceived rebuking that I gave my daughter when my son comes up to stand in front of me when we wave goodbye. And the pained look on her face, which wasn't actually there. If anything, it was a funny look on her face because her older sister behind her kissed her on the back of the head. It made her go, what? But the idea of someone, you can do this. I'm not just saying this because of what the person said, but you can do this. You can read into a situation on behalf of somebody else and totally misunderstand it and get absolutely bent out of shape about it, and worse, spread it. That's Lashon Hara. My daughter will be making a post to say, no. My daughter gets most of my attention publicly. I don't think I could say any more publicly without being accused of overdoing it, about how proud I am of her. But I try to honor my son with a position in front of me at the end because he does his stuff when he does behind the cameras or behind the scenes. And so, that's my firstborn. But to be accused, and again, I'm not bothered by the accusation, and Brianna thought it was funny, but it's the point. Why? It's bad enough you're thin-skinned for yourself. Why would you, A, be thin-skinned for somebody else, and B, then post it in public? Okay? But we do this on Facebook. We do this on YouTube. We do it in a lot of places. Or we do it by just calling up our best friend and happen to have a conversation, and now you're offended for them. Maybe you saw a spouse of somebody who you're friends with do something that you interpreted a certain way, and then you got all defensive or offended by. I'll give you an example. We had some congregation members, this is a long time ago, so you know, but none of you even know these people. And we were at services. I had little children at the time. Something was going on with my children and a bunch of other ones in one of the classrooms in a different building than we are in now. And I was in the middle of doing something, so I couldn't run to go handle it, but it was urgent, okay? I don't remember what it was, but it was urgent. I yelled across the room to my wife and said, hey, you need to go in there right now. And she was also doing something, but it wasn't as urgent as what I was doing. And she hesitated for a second. I said, now, go, because it was urgent. This couple that saw this happen went home and were crying and depressed that I could treat my wife like that in public. You don't know our relationship. You don't know anybody's relationship that you think as you witness things. You don't know that it was urgent. I wasn't being disrespectful. I mean, there was physical harm potentially happening. But I was also dealing with something urgent and couldn't just drop that to go, and she was closer to the place. And I said, you need to stop what you're doing. Go in there and whatever it was. But I was strong, even perhaps harsh sounding in my voice, saying, now. But that's, A, none of your business to get involved in, and B, you don't know what's going on. And so you can see how you can interpret things how you interpret things. That doesn't mean you're always going to be wrong about it. It's just really not your, if it is your issue, then deal with somebody privately. You can go to them and say, hey, you know, I perceive something. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, or whatever. But if you're right, what are you going to do anyway? And what are they supposed to do when you bring it to their attention? That's what I don't understand. And so it's not just this one thing that happened on YouTube. It's to know that it reminded me that we all need to go to our spiritual dermatologists because we are really having skin problems. Okay? And this is something we can address in the next month, in this new moon. Ask yourself, do I have spiritual eczema or whatever? I don't know. I mean, what do I have going on my skin that's just not right? Am I thin-skinned? Am I just not paying attention to how much I'm allowing other people to affect me? And I'm trying to involve myself in things that are not my thing to be involved in. This can happen. I've watched people sitting in a group, okay? This is just an example. It's not connected to anything. Sitting in a group, watching something going on stage, so to speak, like at a congregational service. And whatever was going on, the one person says to the other, can you believe that whatever's going on up there? And it was a woman on the stage, and I said, she has a husband, she has a father, and she also has a pastor, and all of them could decide what they need to do with whatever you're thinking is a problem. What did you want me to do about it? Or what did you want whoever you're talking to do about it? I mean, recognize that there are already appropriate, vertically aligned people to deal with things. Okay? Now, if you think something is really absolutely, horrifically, potentially problematic, sure, you need to say something, but you don't say it in public. You go and handle it with people that can actually do something about something. This perceived rebuke of my daughter, rebuke's a strong word. If you look at the video, not only does Stephen walk past her to get in front of me, and she actually moves out of the way very like she does every week, but I turn and smile at her as he comes in front of me. And she doesn't have a pained look on her face. And she has no problem allowing him to have that space. She was only standing next to me because she wasn't sure he was going to come up, because he doesn't always come up. And so when she saw him coming, she made a space for him. But I don't know if you could watch services, how you cannot hear me every week, be very, generous in my praise and my love for my daughter. Okay? And if you're not really sure what that really is all about, come to a feast or come to service and just see the two of us together. Okay, that is a, hopefully, high standard of father-daughter relations. Okay? And so I'm saddened by these things. And you should be saddened too when people do these things in, not just this thing, but in general, where they feel the need to get involved where they really don't need to get involved, especially in a public way. And by public meaning, anytime anybody that you're sharing it with, that's sort of public. You're now spreading something. Public, like posting it in a post, that's a big problem. And you guys still have to remember, you're in a digital age of Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, YouTube comments, and you know how many times I've commented this year since January 1st on anything? 0. Do you know how many times I've commented on anything in 2019? Probably 0. You know how many posts I've made? Go look at my Facebook page. The last post I made was like August, or I think once for Trumpets or something. And all I did was post the announcement about the service. I haven't made a personal post or comment in years because it's completely unnecessary, and most times it's going to cause more problems than good. Okay, so I would really think more before you post. If you have a husband, ladies, give them an opportunity to vet your posts. Do you think this is appropriate? Do you think this is okay? I'm not talking about the totally generic, benign post, but just something that might be a comment or correction or any kind of thing like that. Give them, it's like the vow chapter in the book of Numbers, right, about making vows. Okay, well, you know what? It's kind of like making a public statement. It's like making a vow. You might want to have a covering to say, no, let's not do that. But I don't have a husband. Well, then find your leadership in the vertical. Just keep working yourself up the vertical chain till you find somebody who can be willing to say, yeah, I'll look at that for you. Yes, I will be that person to help vet that. Because we have to be careful that we're not doing this, involving ourselves. You know what it is? It's a boundaries problem, right? All of us, it's so funny how this is kind of a catch-22 or irony or whatever word you want to say. So many people feel completely disconnected and are frustrated because they feel unconnected to other people, yet at the same time, they react like they're overly connected. In other words, like somehow you and I have no boundaries, and therefore I can be involved in your stuff you're doing, even though at the same time you feel disconnected. Because I know people contact me all the time saying how they feel disconnected. I'm by myself. I don't feel connection. I need to be connected. But then you allow things to bother you like you're hyper-connected. Like there is no boundary between. Okay, see, like my family, you're not a part of it. That's a boundary. My physical family. So there needs to be a certain level of interaction with it, but there's certain levels that you don't get to have. Just like your family. And I try to respect that in my job, because you can come to me and ask me to get involved in a way that I wouldn't normally be, and I am very cautious about doing that because it's not my family. So that's why I try not to get involved in micromanage and do things that really don't need to be done, because we don't seem to have a comfort with our boundaries. Okay? And so boundaries can get moved by mutual agreement, by true relationship. So when you truly become family, as we're all supposed to, then yes, at that point, you'll have enough relationship to have more interconnectivity, I guess is the word. And those boundaries change a little bit because now you're not just acquaintances or people who just happen to know who each other is, and not just friends, but now you're literally family. And we're not family like that just because we are in the same congregation or just because we believe in Messiah and just because we keep Torah. That doesn't make us that type of family. That type of family only comes from time in relationship. Okay? See, I've had some recent conversations, I'm not outing anybody, so they shouldn't necessarily react or anything, where somebody has finally come to a place, not finally meaning it's about time, but finally through the development of relationship now feels like they have a real father figure in their life. Actually, there's a couple of you out there. And that's something that I have worked on with them for a long period of time. And over years, that's developed. So now that changes the boundaries a little bit in that specific area. Okay? Okay, I have a friend who's as close as a brother. And he's told his children, and I've told mine, that we are family. So therefore, each of us has given the other permission to interact with the other's children in a parenting way that you normally wouldn't let just a friend do. And the children have been told, if Uncle so-and-so, who really isn't their uncle, or if I'm, who also referred to as uncle, treat them as, see them doing something, say, you need to knock it off. Well, you need to knock it off. Because those boundaries have been re-specified for the level of relationship, which, by the way, has developed over 20 plus, or 20 years or so. It's a relational thing, okay? You don't automatically get to do certain things in each other's lives. And so here we have people that get mad at me and they type things and stuff, or they get mad at you and type things, because after all, you're posting or reposting things that I've said or whatever's going on out there, and all of a sudden, people are acting like somehow what you're doing affects them, when it doesn't. Or you act like it affects you when it doesn't. Okay? I'll give you an example. People come. Okay, well, you could read whatever you wanted to that. People leave. You could read whatever you wanted to that. Some people, if I announce that people are leaving or have left, will start to go, what's going on? Why are people leaving? For their own reasons? Why would that affect you? I'm going to say something I'm very proud of. I know pride could be a problem, but I'm going to say something I'm very proud of. I have, for almost all of my 56 years, maintained a policy of not just intellectually, but actually in performance, of only believing about somebody based on what I personally have experienced. So whatever you tell me about so-and-so, if I haven't experienced it, I take it with okay, it's information, but I have no judgment, no opinion, because if it doesn't match my experience, then it doesn't match my experience. Now, that doesn't mean that the person tells me these things is wrong. Maybe they get treated one way and I get treated a different way by that person. But you have to remember, if this congregation, for example, is giving you certain things and treating you a certain way, and somebody else says they have a different experience, what in the world does it have to do with you? I mean, you have your experience. Oh, but, I feel bad because they feel like they were treated, but that's their opinion. You have no idea what their filtering is and what their baggage is and what got triggered, what PTSD things are going on, or whatever. Yet, some of you will be overly influenced when those things happen. And let me tell you, we keep this going long enough, I promise you, this is a somewhat revolving door. I shouldn't say revolving door. A lot of people don't normally come back. But they leave, and new people come. And they leave, and new people come. That happens in your life too, doesn't it? Your friends, and they leave. And then you got no friends, and they leave. And no friends, and they leave. That happens. But I mean, I've made mistakes early in my life. I have to say, I guess that wasn't always true, this trying to not judge things according to what other people say. I was overly influenced at one point in my life where I know I made a few friend decisions that I shouldn't have made because other people looked at me like, you're friends with her, or you're friends with him, or those type of things. And I thought, oh. Only to think, why am I letting you influence me? Why does your opinion carry so much weight? By the way, wear that the other way around too. Why do you think anybody should think your opinion carries so much weight? Who are you? Get over yourself. I mean, who are you to think that your opinion should carry so much weight? I mean, I've got some people right now trying to throw some things at me, claiming I said certain things or whatever, and trying to straighten me out on certain positions I have. You know what? If you don't agree with what I say, that's fine. Don't agree with it. If I don't have a relationship with you, I have no interest in your opinion on anything. Just like you shouldn't have any interest in people's opinion you have no relationship with. Why would you care about their opinion if you don't even have a relationship with them? By the way, being your teacher, we have a certain type of relationship if I'm your teacher. That's a relationship. Listening to teachings doesn't make me your teacher. If you're listening to somebody's teachings, you're listening to someone. Someone says, well, I've got lots of teachers. I listen to this person, I listen to that person. Those are not your teachers. Do you ever talk to them on the phone? Nope. Ever talk to them in person? Nope. Well, then you like their teachings, and you're learning from them. Anybody ever go to school? You had a teacher in the room. Even if you're homeschooled, your parent was a teacher. In a teacher relationship with a student, the teacher can come over and correct the student. You listen to somebody on Facebook, on YouTube, on wherever, you get CDs in the mail, there's nobody to correct you. There's nobody to check on you to make sure you're doing or not doing. There's none of that relationship. But yet we feel so free. And you'll do that too. Somebody will post something, you'll go to straighten them out. You don't even know the person. It's just somebody who happens to be friends with somebody you know, whatever, and it came up on your news feed, blah, blah, blah. We are going to figure out over the next, until we die, okay? We are going to figure out how to deal with our emotional problem. Our way that we treat each other. We're going to deal with this horizontal thing, the loving each other thing. And I'm going to pound that issue until we stop breathing. Because that's our biggest problem. And we're not going to get there with thin skin. Okay? And we're also not going to get there with hard hearts. See, we got it backwards. Instead of being thick-skinned and soft-hearted, we're thick-hearted and thin-skinned. Okay? We got to reverse all that. And I'm saying all of this because it's Rosh Chodesh. You can start today to be so much more Yeshua-like than you were yesterday. Even if it's 1%. If you're 1% more just once a month, that's 12% at the end of a year. 5 years, it's 60%. Wow, what a change in just 5 years. Okay? 10 years, you're totally different. It's over 100%. I mean, we're talking about 1%. Right? Can we just work on those things so that we can build, well, how do I want to word this? So we can be prepared to be a forever community. Because we're not ready. And we need to be. Because it says the bride makes herself ready. It doesn't say the bride laid back and it was all done for her by a Messiah. Okay? And for all the Torah terrorists out there, it's not just mechanics. You need to do the mechanics. Yeshua even says as much when he says, yeah, you should have done these things, like even tithing on the little leaves of the herbs. But don't neglect the harder things to do, though. The weightier things. Weightier meaning not because they're more important, but because they take a lot more effort. It's a lot more effort to be patient and compassionate and mercy and the things that are dealing with your emotional state. Okay? And if some of you are going to like it, some of you are not going to like it, but you know what? This is what we need right now. Actually, it's what we always needed. You know what it's called? It's called growing up. You know, when we look at children and we try to tell them, you need to grow up, what are they usually dealing with when we say that? An emotional overreaction to something, or an emotion that's not the right emotion for the situation. There's an emotional thing going on when we tell the child they need to grow up. Because their emotions cause them to do something or not do something. It's an emotional problem. We think of growing up meaning that we get to a place where we mature in how we handle the emotional drives. And the way you do that is not letting the emotions drive. That's how you handle the emotional drives. Don't let the emotions drive. There you go, Manny. How's that for something? You can write that down. Okay? That's how you handle your emotions. Those emotional drives that are driving you crazy, don't let them drive. Let your reason drive. Let your rational thinking drive. Let your intellect drive. Let the emotions then be the boost to having the appropriate. Like if you're supposed to be joyful, your joy is controlled and appropriate because it's not driving. Your sadness is appropriate at times, but it doesn't just get you into a place where you completely break down into non-function for a long period of time because it's driving. There's an appropriate time to be sad. There's an appropriate time to be angry even. It says it for all these things, right? There's an appropriate time for every type of emotion in balance at the right time. I mean, all of us have seen the extremes of this in children. You know how that works. It's late at night, they've had too much sugar, they're in complete overjoyed, bouncing off the walls, and you know the crash is coming. You do. You're just looking there like a ticking time bomb. Because they go from to it's like in like seconds. And there's no telling when it's happening, but it's like a time bomb. And their system can't handle it because they're not driving. The emotions are completely driving. They're tired, they're sugared up. All these things are all driving instead of them consciously choosing. Okay, so let's go from, the guys out there that say things like the purpose-driven life and all this other stuff. How about a conscious life? Live in an awareness and consciousness of what's appropriate moment to moment. Wouldn't that be a great way to do it? Okay, that completes our group therapy for the evening. And don't forget to make your appointment with the spiritual dermatologist. Okay, so, because we've got to figure this out, right? And you need to find the appropriate way to respond when people that are suffering with all this stuff come to you and try to get you to join the pile-on. Okay? And it's usually a negative emotional pile-on. Anger, offense, hurt, whatever it is. They want you to join them. It's not just wallowing in, that kind of stuff, but you're wallowing specifically in these negative emotional driven things. Well, can you believe what so-and-so did? And then you can look the person and say, I can't believe you're sharing that with me. How about answering that way? I just look them in the eye and say, why are you sharing that with me? Or at least, why are you sharing it that way? Can you believe what so-and-so did? I don't have a problem necessarily where, wow, I saw this that so-and-so did, and I'm not really sure how to respond to it. If you feel the need to even talk about it. Because you really don't have to. But if you're really struggling processing your emotions and what would be appropriate, and there's a few of you here that will contact me about those kind of things, then it's nothing wrong with saying, I just experienced, or whatever this was, and I'm not sure the right way to respond. That's different than going, oh, I got to tell you. Did you know what I saw? And that so-and-so was doing this, and then I saw them say that, and this was done, but can you believe they did that in front of their husband, or in front of their wife, or their kids, or their... What? We need to knock that off. That is not going to work in the kingdom. If you think that's going to work in the kingdom, you are in for a shock. Now, you can think I'm wrong, that's fine. Let's go back to something I haven't said in a long time. Well, we'll say it now, and then we'll wrap up with this. If you were the creator, in other words, if you had the power to live forever and choose anybody you wanted to live with you forever, a lot of you heard me play this game, what would your criteria be? What would you want the people to be like that you spend forever with? And think about all the people you know and how short that list will probably be right now. And then, of course, the more scary thought is, how many people's lists would you be on as somebody that other people would want to spend forever with, the way you are right now? Would you be on a lot of people's list? Oh, everybody loves me. They don't want to spend forever with me. Okay, and then you woke up. But if you think about from the other side of it, if you had the choice and you had to have a measuring stick of how you would figure that out, and you wouldn't allow all this nonsense that's going on in your kingdom, Why do you think he would? So if you think I'm stretching things by saying this is not going to work, you wouldn't let it work. You would not want people doing all of this stuff in a forever place you were in charge of, and you'd have to live with that forever? People snipping at each other and mocking each other and lashon haraying each other, so to speak. They're talking behind each other's back and they're slandering each other, and you would want all that in your kingdom forever? Oh no, you don't understand, Rabbi. When we get then, he's going to give us a new heart and we're going to be all different. I'm sorry. I think I'm just laughing on his behalf. That's a funny thought. If that were the case, why are we still here? I mean, that's the simplest question. Why are we still here? If he's just going to do it all for us anyway and give us a whole new everything and wave his magic hand and blah, 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 then what's the point of all this torturous nonsense? Because it grows you and changes you and causes you to choose to change. So we got to figure this out. And I'm warning you in advance so that you can quit and go somewhere else if you need to. I am not going to stop. I'm going to be relentless on these points. Okay? All right? Until Ephesians chapter 4, until the body comes together into the unity and conformity of the likeness of the fullness of the image of Yeshua himself. I will continue to push this. What do you think you're so? No, I am guilty of all of this. So I'm preaching to myself first, as all preachers should. So I don't want you to think for 1 second, I think I'm not doing any of this stuff. We're all the same. We're humans. We're all doing this stuff. We all need to go to the dermatologist. We all need to figure out how we can get ourselves to be in that image. And we're not there. But we're also not, I don't think, urgently enough working on it either. Because we walk around with what I'm doing is so bad. I don't think I'm so bad. What's so bad about what I'm doing? This is the complacency that makes us not aim high. We're aiming at the highest target there is, Yeshua. I mean, that's the target, to become that. Well, I'm okay. I don't think I'm okay gets you there. Now, if you say, I'm okay, but I'm working on becoming that, that's fine, because you start off with, but if you're saying, I'm okay, I don't need to worry about it. I'm sure I'm getting in. I'm okay. Why would you ever stop working at it? The reason you're above the ground is to work on it. That's the reason you're here. That's the only reason you're here. To work on it. And so if you're not working on it, why do you need to be here? I don't mean here like in the congregation. I mean breathing above the ground. Okay, right? Making decisions is the reason you exist. So you exist to make decisions to transform yourself from you into him. And life gives you the opportunity to make those choices. And so don't get complacent. Don't just veg out in front of your TV or whatever it is you're doing on your computer, but make sure that in your relationships, you're aware, am I being Yeshua-like? I'm working aggressively right now on patience and my anger issues. I mean, like the last couple of weeks, I've made a commitment to work aggressively on these things, where I'm going to be focused on paying attention to how I interact with people and computers. That one may take a while. I may just need to let other people log in for me. But you need to own your stuff and commit to work aggressively to fix it. Because it's the whole reason you're here. Okay? You aren't here to make babies. You aren't here to get married. Although in doing those things, they are part of your being able to do what you are here to do. Because you learn from all of those things. In dealing with children, you learn a tremendous thing. In dealing with a husband or wife, you learn tremendous things. In dealing with congregational stuff, you'll learn. These things are there to help you with why you're here, which is a change into Him. They're part of the means to get you there. Okay? So, we're here to, be fruitful and fill the earth. Yes, with people that are then going to spend every moment on the earth trying to work on themselves to become like Him. That's the point. Okay? So what I used to always ask was, are you becoming the type of person that He wants to live with forever? Only you can answer that question for yourself. You need to look yourself in the mirror, push all the holes you can into those delusion bubbles so you can see clearly, and don't get depressed when you realize how badly you fall short. Recognize that that's normal. The problem that you should be frustrated with is whether or not you're going to complacently just accept it or you're going to actually start working on the 1%, 1%. Just 1%. Oh, you want to speed it up? Okay, so do 1% every other week instead of once a month. Now you doubled it. Just 1%. Amen? Second close. All right, let's pray. Father, we come before you at this beginning of this new month, this Rosh Chodesh. And Father, we just want you to help us to take everything that is hidden and reveal it in ourselves, not reveal it to the whole public, but to ourselves so that we can work on it. So we can understand where we are falling short in how we deal with each other and not just you. Because a lot of times we know and recognize that we get so focused on the vertical that we don't realize that how much of the vertical is also about why He brought us here as a group. He didn't just create one person, and that one person had to learn how to behave right. You brought people, lots of people into existence, and they interact with each other because you want family, you want community, and we need to figure out how to be that. And so, Father, we ask your patience and mercy with us. We also ask that you would be strong, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I was trying to think of the right word, but when it says no father who loves his son, withholds correction, but he corrects the children that he loves. Correct us. Help us to see where we need to grow, to change, to transform. And let us be willing to recognize that irritation that keeps popping up. It's because that's the thing we're not dealing with. You tired of that same thing popping up all the time? Father, we're tired? Fine. I promise you, to those that are listening, I know I say this when I'm praying and I'm also talking to you guys. Fix it and I'll give you something new to play with. Don't think that if you fix it, you won't have anything new to play with. He's not going to have you work. It's kind of like when they went into the land. He said, don't clear away all the beasts all at once or there'll be a bigger problem. Okay? I mean, all the people all at once because there'll be a bigger problem because the beasts will come and kill you. You can't handle all of it at once. So He's giving you something to play with primarily. Fix it, work on it, do whatever you need to do, get it all worked out, and then He'll give you something different. That's kind of why you got to count it all joy, because there's always going to be something to work on. Just if you don't like the one you're working on, fix it. He'll give you something new to play with. I don't mean that in a joking way. You have plenty on the list. One at a time, maybe sometimes two at a time, you'll work on these things. So, Father, as you do these things for us and with us and to us, etc., just help us to stay encouraged that it's all worth it, that we can count it all as being worth the price. We know that that's what Yeshua did. Yeshua was willing to pay the price He paid because it would all be worth the paying of that price for what would be the result, the fruit, the reward at the end. So my prayer is for all of you, take this seriously, that this is a new month. Renew your commitment to we'll make it simple. Renew your commitment to the growing and transforming into the image of the Son. And so, Father, we come before you and ask all these things. And I, as the leader of this group, ask it on behalf of all of the people here, on live stream, etc., in the name above all names, in His authority, Yeshua our Messiah. Amen. 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 I suppose if you want to make a comment or say something, we can bring a mic around. Steve, you want to grab a mic? Did anybody want to say anything? Somebody was just doing a little mic drop thing. We're thinking of making a picture, an image of like me standing there with a mic, and then a camera points down, there's a pile of them already on the floor. Like there's a mountain of mics. Because Mandy does that a lot. When I say something, I don't know what I'm saying. He'll all of a sudden look at me like, phew. Look, and I'm not here to impress anybody or do mic drops. I'm trying to get your attention. Okay? I'm trying to get your attention. I want you to, remember, my whole thing, and I've said it 1,000 times, is to help you get from here to there. And I don't think I'm going to get that done in my role by just telling you, hey, it's okay, you're just fine, just keep doing what you're doing, it'll be great. You just keep walking in favor, or whatever other nonsense they say out there. That isn't going to get it done. It's just not. Rabbi Tom.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi. Overall, your Rosh Chodesh message this month was, I think, pretty encouraging. And you mentioned, you used the term spiritual eczema. I think that, and I'm not necessarily talking about this one individual, but anyone who posts such things about anyone else, anyone, is in danger of having spiritual sarat.
That's right.
Much more serious.
Yep.
And if they're not careful, they could be visited with a physical sarat, because many people in the scriptures were.
Yes.
That's an awesome thought.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Whoever you are, be careful.
Okay, so let me just say this. Whoever was that posted, I don't know who the person was, know this. We love you. We do. We understand that you were thinking that your heart was for my daughter. See, good intentions were all over that post. Didn't come across in the right way, and it was completely inappropriate and actually 100% wrong in the assumptions. But the heart was there. So just realize you can do all these things and all your intention could be good. Okay? Because if you read the post sounds like the person really cares, and it's not an attack on me per se, and there's a lot of, but that doesn't change anything. That's number one. Number two, Rabbi Tom was referring to tzara'at, which is in the teachings, when we go through the Torah portions, it comes up as leprosy, but it's really not leprosy, okay? And so the Torah portion deals with having, when you are in sin, it can then manifest on your skin. And if you don't take care of it, it will then start to manifest on your clothing. And if you don't take care of it, it then starts to manifest on your house, like the walls of your house. And so think about it. Think of the level of it. If you're sinning, there's a lot of things happening in your life that nobody knows. They don't know you're doing the sin, and they don't know that you're suffering in any way because you can hide it. You can cover it up with your clothing, so to speak, as if it was on your skin. So then Yahweh says, fine. Then we're going to put it on your clothes. You can't hide that because that's now on top of your skin. And then you think, okay, well, then I can hide in my house. That's okay. Then we'll put it all over your house. Just think about it. And it's not actual leprosy that we're talking about there. It's a different type of disease. It's connected to sin. Now, I've had people in the past, again, these are not people you would know, who, and I say those things because everybody wants to get mad thinking I'm calling them out when I'm not. Okay, so I know exactly who I'm talking about, and you don't even know them. But I remember there was one person who on Facebook and in person was saying, well, I don't understand why all these things just seem to be going wrong, and I can't seem to catch a break, and, everything's... Yet, those of us that knew this person knew they were in rebellion against leadership, they were in rebellion against their spouse, they were doing all the... And then they act like, well, I don't understand. What do you mean you don't understand? Everything about your life is out of order and you're surprised that everything's going bad. Ever been there? Some of you may wear that shirt sometimes. You're like, I don't get it. Well, because the reason you don't get it is because you don't get it. That might be a good t-shirt. The reason you don't get it is because you don't get it. All right? You're not figuring it out. You're not understanding. And so be careful with that. because it starts to manifest bigger and bigger. And see, it's not like, well, one little thing happens, you wonder, oh, I wonder what they did. And this is worse. You'll see something happen to somebody else, you go, oh, I wonder what they did. You're wondering what they did. Their car broke down. What does that mean? Because they sinned, their car broke down? Everybody's car breaks down. So what? My water heater went out this morning. I wonder what sin I did. It's like so dumb. The water heater's 20 years old. I didn't know that. Steve came over to fix it. He said, by the way, this thing was put in 1999. Okay, no wonder it's busted. Actually, it's lived a long life. But people can jump to these conclusions. You know, when I was first in ministry and headed out on our journey, just as we were leaving for our little 7-year hiatus, if you don't know about that, you can find out whatever, it doesn't matter. But we were going on our journey. People said, oh, because of your journey is why you don't have children. No, we had fertility issues. And while we were on our journey, we had the children. So was he blessing the journey? Was he cursing the walk before? I mean, or was it just all part of a bigger picture that had nothing to do with those things specifically? But we can jump to conclusions. Or we could realize, you know what? Most people have fertility struggles. Most couples deal with some level of fertility struggles. Most couples deal with things like miscarriages or some other thing to deal with. This is, I was saying normal, but it's common. Normal is, I don't want to say like it's supposed to happen that way, but it happens. You don't hear about it very much because people don't like to talk about it, which is good. But if they talked about it a little bit, at least people going through it wouldn't realize that they're not damaged, broken, and failures. It's just like it's actually normal. Very common, it happens. I mean, this was a very big blessing to my wife that when we had a miscarriage, you know, that she ended up talking to enough people to find out, wait, other people have had them. Like most everybody she talked to who had children over a period of time had some miscarriage issues. But in the meantime, you might think, what's wrong with me? Why did I have this horrible thing happen? Well, because it's normal, actually. We have no idea until you try to do this, if you've never had a child, to know how hard it is to have one. Because the only time that it's easy to have one is if you're 15 and your first time ever having sex, then you're guaranteed to do it perfect when you're ovulating and everything will go great, and you'll be pregnant. Okay? But if you want a baby and you're the right age and everything else, that doesn't work so easy necessarily. I'm just, you know, so this goes back to, Yahweh will make sure it's going to manifest more and more. If you're paying attention, and guess what? Like what he says in the curses where he says, and if you don't listen to me, I will curse you 7 times. And if you're still not instructed, he says, by those curses, I will curse you 7 times more. And if that doesn't work out, he's going to keep ramping it up and turning up the heat till you get the point. And so are you paying attention? That's really the bigger problem. All right, who else? Now that I did another mini sermon. Anybody else? Steve, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it seems like a lot of people want to live their life with a mob mentality. It means if the more people they can get to agree with their way of thinking, they're going to force that person to change to what they feel is acceptable rather than what's that person, I mean, the way something handles in their life is their life, to not for somebody to come along and say, oh, that's not right. And the more they get to agree with them, they feel like they're going to get you to change your way of acting or behaving.
I mean, listen, I'll give you an example. Both, so I'm not picking on anybody, particularly my family, both my wife's parents, one of them, I think it was her mother, and both my mother and father, whatever. One parent, or at least from each of our families, at some point in front of us went to correct our children. And I had to look at them in both cases and say, excuse me, parent right here, my problem, not yours. Okay? Do you understand? If you're dealing with somebody and they have a built-in vertical structure, there's no reason for you to get involved. I've got a congregation, so if you're on live stream, I don't need you sending me emails telling me where I'm wrong about everything. I've got leadership like Rabbi Tom, etc. I've got a leaders' council of 20-something people that are leading other groups. All of them have the opportunity to tell me if they think I'm wrong. It doesn't need to come from you. And I got one person right now who's all mad at me because they think I was wrong about something and didn't like the way I responded, which, by the way, I can promise you I didn't even respond because I'm sure I didn't read the long email in the first place. If you know me, you know if it was that long, I didn't read it. Okay? I don't have that kind of time. Don't take it personally. If I read an email where the person is going to try to teach me, instruct me, and guide me and correct me, I'm not reading it. Oh, the ego and pride on that guy. No. I don't have enough relationship to know what makes you know what anything that I don't know. I have people already around me who I respect. And they can always point things out. And I will receive and consider strongly what they have to say. But you, who I don't know, who I may have spoken to once in an email or on a phone call, have no place correcting me. Do you understand? It's not just me. I'm speaking of me from the position. Okay? Because I see people posting all the time on the videos, corrective stuff. I should only be corrected by my peers and my teacher. Okay? If I have a teacher, that teacher can correct me. If I have a peer, in other words, like I have in a leadership council, they can say in a respectful way, I think you're wrong on this one. Okay? Have you considered this? So all of you can just stop sending that other stuff. It's not going to get you anywhere, and I'm probably not even going to read it. Okay? Not because of pride or ego, but because it's not your place. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, but some people are going to just post this like, oh, well, that guy's just all, full of himself. That's fine. It doesn't bother me. Okay? But if we changed roles, if you were in my seat and I was in yours, you'd feel the same way. See, but you're not, this is the old saying about putting somebody else's shoes on. Put yourself in the position. How would you feel if you're in my position and people are just sending you emails trying to tell you how you're wrong about this policy or that position or some other thing? How do I even know that person has what qualifications do they have? Where are they coming from? What's their agenda? I don't know anything like that about any of these people. Which is also why you should remember that the next time you go to post, somebody puts something and you feel you have to stand up for Yahweh and correct them. I don't care how right you are. Why would anybody listen to you? Where is your position that generates they should listen to you? Do you understand what I'm saying? If you're in my congregation, in other words, the shepherding that I have to do, the responsibility I have, if I'm serving you as a body, then you should listen to me. We have that relationship. But if you're posting on Facebook, and I don't know who you are, and we've never met, and you're not in our congregation, why would I go on there? And I could, believe me, there's a lot of posts I can go on there and try to correct. But what would be the point? I'm not in a position in the vertical. Let's always remember that whole vertical thing. Only people in the vertical chain above you should correct you, or on the same level with you that you have agreed to through relationship. Does that make sense? And that's the same for you. Don't take correction from anybody that's not in the vertical above, or somebody that you have accountability partnered with in a agreed to covenant, a relationship. Okay? You shouldn't be corrected by anybody outside of that. And nor should you be giving correction outside of that. Would you like it, those of you with children, if a person just on the street, or you're walking through Walmart, your children are doing something, and a perfect stranger comes over and starts correcting your child? Or worse, correcting you on how you're parenting your child. I'm sure that would have gotten a very warm, thankful reaction out of you. Oh, well, it's so thoughtful of you to say these things and give me help, and I really appreciate your concern for me and my children. No, you probably blast them, glare at them, and tell them go away. Mind your own business. Right? Oh, no, but this is different, Rabbi, because this is, spiritual stuff, and that means I have the license to do whatever I want. That's where you're already screwed up on the whole deal, thinking that in the spiritual stuff you get to do whatever you want. He gets to decide how it works, not you. There was one or two people, let's see, Peter tried to correct Yeshua. How well did that go? Oh, be kind to yourself, Master. And what did Yeshua say? Get behind me, Satan. This is what happens when someone under tries to correct somebody above. Okay? And not Satan the way you guys think of it from Christianity. Just you're being an adversary. The Satan in Hebrew is adversary. You're being an adversary to the process if you are in the vertical chain trying to correct someone above you. There's always someone higher to correct them. You don't need to. David had this with Saul. Saul was king. David was not. David was not going to correct Saul. David was not going to kill Saul. David wasn't going to do anything to attack Saul because what did he say? I'm not vertically in the right chain of command here. Yahweh put him there. He's the only one who can take him out. Is that fair? The scripture lays this all out for you if you just pay attention. Oh, but we should be... Show me that in scripture. If you read Paul's letters, you can see a few times where he didn't like it either, that people tried to do that kind of stuff. Actually, if you read Galatians, Paul had a little challenge with it on the accountability of horizontal too, between him and James and Peter and John. But that's their own personal struggle. They're human. So I'm not picking on Paul, I'm just saying. But certainly he was, if he had a problem with James and Peter and John on the horizontal, so to speak, a little bit of it was vertical too, because James was above him as the head apostle. But just realize that you got to understand where you are in the chain of things and be okay with that. That's where he put you. Don't be like Korach and not like where you are in the chain and what he's given you to do. All right, who's next? You got any online? Nope, we're good? Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and close it with that. If anybody wants to come on up here, we're going to wave Rosh Chodesh Sameach, wave goodbye to everybody. And my daughter will stand in front of me. Listen, I've had her up here before many times where I've put my arms around her, given her a kiss right after she finished playing the music or something. I don't know why anybody doesn't understand the love I have for my daughter. That's my girl. Well, all right. It's caught your hair, sorry. Okay. We're all in good? All right, Kirk says we're good. All right, so on three, we're going to say Rosh Chodesh Sameach. Then we're going to say Shavua Tov, have a good week. And then we'll tell them we love them. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Rosh Chodesh Sameach. Shavua Tov. We love you.